Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Steve Smith, editor of PHC News Magazine. Welcome back to PHCPPros Live. We're at the ASPE trade show. First time they've had the trade show probably in 4 years, I believe, certainly since COVID. And we're doing a series of live interviews. We've already did a bunch in the morning. We're wrapping up this afternoon, and we're going to be back tomorrow as well. My guest for this segment is Paul Rice. Paul is the regional manager for the Ohio Valley for Lochinvar. Paul, thanks for coming on. I'm glad to see you. Now, I hate to bring up COVID. I think we're all sick and tired of hearing about it. But tell us about all the challenges that Lochinvar met and how they met those challenges in the last couple of years.
COVID led to a number of challenges for Lochinvar, as well as the industry. One of the things that we were faced with is a lack of face-to-face conversations, as we were all restricted to our offices or our homes, and that is definitely not the way we go to market. We go to market strictly on a face-to-face basis, and we're used to being in front of our customers, whether those are distributors or engineers. So we had to really punt and figure out different ways to get in front of our customers. Those tools were Zoom, they were Microsoft Teams, and we literally had to train ourselves on how to use those and how to interact with a lot of our customers. So that led to additional challenges with our personnel and making sure that we can engage our customers the way we're used to doing that.
Absolutely.
One of the secondary detriments of COVID was it led to a great deal of issues with getting raw materials. And the raw material question is continuing now. We're running into shortages of all kinds of products, primarily in chips. We saw a lot of that in the automotive industry, and we're still seeing that now. But one of the things that has really led us to do is develop deeper relationships with our vendors and the companies that we rely on. Oftentimes it was a relationship between a purchasing agent and a selling agent. And in order to deepen those relationships, we've actually taken a C-suite approach, where we've ensured that our C-suite members, our president, vice presidents, are reaching out to our providers and those presidents, so that we make sure we have a deeper partnership. And I think that's going to continue on even after we get through this area.
The chip shortages you mentioned, prices of raw materials, it's at least plateauing, perhaps, or?
We feel like it's plateauing. Last year in 21, we had significant price increases across a lot of different product lines, and just never seen before in the market area.
Yes.
And this year we feel like we're stabilizing. We think we may see some modest increases, but I think they're truly plateauing and stabilizing now.
Good to hear. Yeah, I know. I think I was at last year's PHCC, and everything was up.
Absolutely.
And there was no plateau a year ago.
No.
And in a couple of weeks, we're going to be back at that show, and there's probably going to be a similar discussion. I know there is.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see what
it's
been
interesting because we've seen the raw materials, between stainless steel, which we use a lot of, has increased dramatically. That has plateaued and dropped a bit. Yeah. Now it's a lag. Do we catch up? How do we make an adjustment? Do we expect to see another increase? And I think we're in a good spot now. So I think we're at a plateau. It would be nice if we could see some price reductions, but I don't know that that's on the horizon at this point in time.
Okay.
So
now, with COVID and the challenges of face-to-face, I think of my readers as installers, and they have to train. They need training.
Yeah.
And traditionally it was go to classroom, sit, listen, maybe take a factory tour.
Absolutely.
Couldn't have done any of that during COVID, of course.
Absolutely not.
So, and we were reminiscing before we went on here. I'm not so sure what training center I saw last time. It was brand new.
Sure.
But I think you've probably built a whole different one since then. So, what's going on with training for contractors at least? Is it back to face-to-face? Do you still have to, what's
It is back
on?
to face. Lochinvar has always been really well known, and we pride ourselves on our training. We have a variety of training levels depending on what target audience that is, whether that's engineers, whether that's contractors, or whether that's end users. And we have you mentioned our training facility in Lebanon, Tennessee. We can host about 75 people there total.
Okay.
Most of our training classes are about 20 to 25 people.
Okay.
The service training is performed several times through the year, and it covers all of our different product levels, whether that's a residential boiler, whether it's a commercial custom boiler or a water heater. So we work those all the way through the year. We'll also host training for the engineering community, and that's targeting it a little differently. We want to talk to them about our product level and how they get applied. Because whenever they're designing, we want to make sure that they're not oversizing or undersizing, and we use the right product in the right mix.
Okay.
So that is a different target audience for us. So those are all in person, and those are held in our facility down in Lebanon, Tennessee, just outside Nashville.
Yeah.
And we host probably 2,000 people a year. And COVID put a block on that, but we're back up and running, and we're still doing that face-to-face. And it's really refreshing. A lot of pent-up demand has been to come down to the factory.
Yes.
So it's been a joy to sit there and have people come back in and get reacquainted with each other.
That's great.
Some of our customers are long-time customers of ours, and we have deep relationships that go back decades. So when we weren't able to get together, it really, I won't say it's strained, but it was a difference. And now that we're back face-to-face, it's made a big difference.
Great to hear.
Yeah.
And in terms of training, Lochinvar obviously employs trainers, but there's only a few of those. You shared a really interesting story with your brother who is a pastor.
Yes.
And what you relayed from him to your sales force. Can you tell that story?
Sure. Well, my brother's been a pastor for 30 plus years, and I was always amazed that he could come up and develop a homily or a sermon just off the cuff, in essence. And one of the things he relayed to me is that he studied this for a number of years, for 20, 30 years. And if you know something that long and you've been in that industry that long, you should be able to at least carry the tone of the product or the training across, at a moment's notice. And being able to sit there and talk about, for us, talking about a Crest boiler or talking about a copper fin boiler and get the bare facts across. We consider all of our sales managers, regional managers, trainers, in addition to the training staff that we have in Tennessee. And we want to carry that out into the field, and that's what we plan to do.
Yeah, that's a great story, and I mean, everybody is a trainer. Everybody's in sales for certain as well. So yeah,
absolutely. And it's amazing to sit there and see the. While we offer all that training down in Tennessee, we also offer virtual training.
Yes.
We've set up Zoom meetings to do the dedicated training there. We also have a website called lochinvaru.com, and you can go in, either contractors or engineers can go in and learn about the product and learn about how they're applied and which products are the best to use in certain situations.
Great. Well, getting back to products, what kind of trends do you foresee, I guess, in 5-10 years?
We're seeing a I'd almost call a seismic shift.
Yeah.
In decarbonization.
Okay.
We've always offered gas-fired appliances and electric direct heat appliances, and we're seeing a shift towards decarbonization, which means we're not going to be using fossil fuels.
Right.
So how do we generate hot water to go into a building or into domestic hot water? We're going to use heat pumps, and those are going to range anywhere from 50 gallons up to thousands of gallons of capacity, and we're able to get greater gains in efficiency using a heat pump because we're actually using the heat that's in the air around us or in the water source that we're going to be drawing that heat from and injecting it where we want it, into a building or into our domestic hot water system. And heat pumps, by being just able to transfer that energy, you don't have to generate that heat. You don't have to do that with an electric element or with a gas burner. And it's a much more efficient manner of sitting there doing it. So we're going to see decarbonization across the country. Primarily, we're seeing it on the coastlines currently. We're seeing it in New York, New Jersey, Maryland. We're starting to see it in Washington State and different communities across the country where they aren't allowing fossil fuel appliances to be installed. So that's going to be a seismic shift in our industry over the next several years. We're displaying today a heat pump water heater, and that's going to continue to grow in this industry over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. And I mean, where are we? I mean, I'm from Northern Illinois.
Sure.
It's cold in January and February.
It gets cold up there.
I have a furnace, so I don't have a heat pump. So I mean, can I expect the same level of comfort? Maybe
you'll probably expect the same level of comfort, and you'll get it.
Yeah.
What it does is it affects the sizing. So the colder climates will oftentimes need to have larger units to offset the losses that you have with lower temperatures in the air.
Okay.
We would typically not recommend an air-cooled or an air-to-air exchange or air-to-water exchange in colder climates. I would recommend going to a water source heat pump in that case, because you can draw that from out of the ground.
Okay.
Ground source is typically going to stay 50 degrees. That's going to give you plenty of hot water and hot water resource to provide what you need inside the building.
Okay. And what do you hear from contractors about this? I mean, they're a traditional bunch of guys. And
They
girls.
are. They are.
So, I mean, are they
We're very
skeptical,
traditional.
or where are they at?
We're a very traditional industry. They will be drug kicking and screaming. No, a lot of contractors are starting to embrace it. The HVAC contractors are very familiar with heat pump technology. Where we'll see the change is on the plumbing side of things, and the mechanical contractors that are used to dealing with hot water pumps, water heaters, and boilers. Those will be a big change for them. But the contractors that are used to dealing with HVAC systems, they'll be familiar with heat pumps already. Instead of injecting it into an air coil unit or to an air handler, we'll be putting it into domestic hot water, or actually into an air coil for building heat. So it'll be a change, but it will be something that they'll be familiar with over time.
And I guess the whole point is it's coming. I mean,
It
it's
is
not
coming.
like maybe not. It's definitely gonna happen.
Yes, it is. We're seeing legislation across the industry. In those coastlines, it's been very aggressive. But it seems like every day we're hearing of another state
You do hear
or
more, yeah.
community
Yeah.
that says no more fossil fuels.
Right.
And they are stair-stepping it a little bit, so it won't take place immediately, but between now and 2030, you're going to see dramatic changes in the uses of fossil fuels.
And I do hear more and more from manufacturers like Lochinvar, who are through R&D, thinking about it more and more, and that
It'll
and
be
just
a-
embracing the inevitable.
Yes, it's going to be a major. We introduced commercial heat pumps for domestic hot water about 2 years ago, and it's going to continue to grow that line.
Sure.
And we're investing heavily.
So now the other trend, I guess, I hear from my readers ad infinitum is labor shortage. So what's Lochinvar doing to help address the fact that there's not that many new plumbers, new HVAC guys coming up? What's happening?
There's a number of facets that we're using, but one in particular is the opportunity on larger projects to offer prepackaged systems. So prepackaged systems, what does that mean? We'll have an engineer who will design around a series of boilers, 4 to 5 or 6 or 8, a set of water heaters and storage tanks. And typically they would be delivered to a job site, and the mechanic would set them in place and start piping them up. We can take that on and offset the need or the lack of skilled labor in the market by doing all of that assembly at our factory. So we can take any number of configurations of boilers and water heaters and storage tanks, either combine them or put them together in a way that an engineer wants, do that all at our factory, end up with single point connections for the electric, single point connections for the water, and then when they arrive on the job site, they're ready to hook up utilities.
Right, just slide it in.
Just slide it in place, hook up utilities, and you're ready to start firing the water.
So you're kind of prefabbing this for the contractor engineer.
It's a prefabrication. It saves time on the job site.
Yeah.
And it ensures a number of things. One, we know all the sizing calculations for the pipe sizes, for the gas line sizes. We make sure that those are all sized correctly. And then whenever it's on the site, the owner ends up having a single source of responsibility, and that's Lochinvar.
Okay.
And whenever we have an issue that pops up, hey, he's got a person to call, and we're going to take care of that.
Okay.
So it really gives a lot of reliability, a lot of assurance to the end user and to the mechanical contractor that they know who to call.
Right.
And it reduces all the pointing fingers.
So this kind of service saves the installer time installing and alleviates the headaches
Yes.
of trying to do this themselves, I guess.
Yes.
Where, I don't remember quite doing this, but you stand behind this. So
Absolutely.
You're the guy to call if there is a problem.
That's exactly right. And that's where we want to be. We want to make sure that when product hits the street, you're going to get the expected life that you want out of it. We want to make sure that you get the expected efficiency out of it. And that's what we do in the market area. And we continue that on through our prepackaged systems.
Yeah.
And it's been a great way to sit there and enter the market. We have a number of competitors out there that have high efficiency boilers, and one of the ways that we try to set ourselves apart is how do we package? How do we sit there and ensure that the end user is getting the entire life and efficiency that they expect out of their products. And
Good.
this is one way.
Good. So now, as far as products go, at your booth here at ASPE,
Yes.
you mentioned that there's a new heat pump water heater.
There's a
on
heat pump
display.
water heater.
But I also know you mentioned, again, just talking before we hit live, the Crest Hellcat combustion system. It's a good name. So tell us a little more about that.
It's a great product. We're so thrilled. The Crest boiler has been in the market for a number of years now. And we just made some changes to it about 2 years ago. And one of those changes was introducing Hellcat technology. Hellcat technology is adjusting the gas and air intake to make sure we ensure proper flame combustion. And we do that through measuring our oxygen content inside the combustion chamber. We have an O2 sensor in there. And whenever we sense that there are shifts in atmospheric conditions or temperatures outside, we automatically adjust that to make sure that we're maintaining proper combustion. And it's given us a reliability that is unforeseen. We're constantly using that O2 sensor to measure consistently, and we know exactly what that combustion system is doing. Well, what does that do for us? We've been burning fossil fuels for years and years and years, and we know how to manage flames. What this really allows us to do is to monitor that flame during extremes of the weather. We have several sensors that measure barometric pressure, indoor temperature, outdoor temperature, and we make adjustments as those change.
Really?
And it really gives you an incredibly reliable combustion system to keep that efficient flame. Yeah.
We talked a lot about smart plumbing technology. This is an example of smart heating technology from the sound of it.
It absolutely is. And it has reduced startup time. Normally you would schedule an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours to do a startup on a boiler. It's reduced it to minutes now.
Really?
So it's amazing. The sensor, you can see on the Crest Hellcat, you can actually see the sensor on the display itself, and you can watch it as it changes. And we have a dashboard on there that tells you exactly how the combustion is going. And as long as it stays in the green area, you have great combustion settings on there. So we can actually see that. Now, one of the things that people ask is, well, what happens when that O2 sensor fails? It's a mechanical item. It's going to fail at some point in time. What it does is it registers the temperature that's still around it, and it uses that last setting to continue on at those settings and making adjustments, even without that O2 sensor in place. And that gives us that reliability and not forcing a immediate change of that O2 sensor. It makes sure the end user stays in operation. The last thing we need to have on a 10 degree or a 10 below zero day is have your boiler going out because a sensor went out. That doesn't happen whenever our O2 sensor goes out. So it gives us a great deal of reliability.
Well, those are two products. Anything else new and exciting at the booth?
So we have the Armor we just introduced. So once COVID hit, we actually introduced 3 new products. We introduced Crest Hellcat, the Crest Standard, which was a revision at that time frame. We just introduced the Armor and our Night XL products in that same time frame. Those are completely revamped from the heat exchanger on out. New control systems on them, longer vent connections on it to give it better flexibility from an installation standpoint. Deeper turn down to make sure you're matching that load significantly closer than we have in the past. So even during COVID, we're sitting there continually driving innovative products out there into the marketplace.
All right, well, I was going to say, we're mid-September. AHR is 4 months away. What can we expect next year? It sounds like you hope you still got some product in your back pocket.
We do. We tend to, whenever we take people through our factory, we have a test lab in there, and we tend to say, oh, what's behind the green curtain? And there's products that are coming out there that are behind the green curtain that we're not quite ready to release yet and talk about yet. But they'll be coming out in ASHRAE and AHR in a few months. Yes, and we have a catchphrase in Lochinvar that we tend to joke around about a little bit, but the catchphrase is, we're dedicated to new product development. So every time we have people come through the factory, it's like, what's behind the green curtain? We're dedicated to new product development. Those are coming down the path. And I think you'll tend to start seeing more about heat pump side of things. That's going to be a drive. You'll see different products get introduced where we've improved combustion, just like we did with the Hellcat. We'll see advantages. One of the things that we just added to our night residential boiler is we added a utility plug. it's great because these get installed in basements and we need to have a condensate pump. Well, you can just plug your condensate pump right to the side of the boiler, or you use it for a test lamp. We work with our contractors. We ask their advice. What should we add to our boilers? That's what we're doing.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, Paul, tremendous interview. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
And you are at booth 743.
Yes. Please come
So
by.
hopefully
visit us.
everyone can stop by that's watching this live, and we'll go from there. It's great. I'll see you in ASHRAE, I guess, with those things behind the curtain.
Absolutely.
All right,
They'll be
perfect.
popping out.
All right, we'll take a bit of a break and be back with more.